Hey everybody, Emmett Ferguson here, and for this episode of Strategic Possibilities, we're going to be talking about destroying weak thoughts. And the example that we're going to use for this is my personal experience with the David Goggins 4x4x48 challenge. Now, if you haven't heard of David Goggins, which I'd be surprised if you're watching this video, or you haven't heard of the 4x4x48 challenge, what it is you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. Yes, that's right. David Goggins came up with that. So you run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours, which totals 48 miles over 12 runs. You start on Friday night at 8 p.m., which is the official start time for this past March event, March 2022, and it ended on Sunday at 4 p.m. And what you get is a weekend of an incredible challenge that takes you to the next level. Now, if you're not familiar with David Goggins, I mean, he's an ultra athlete, has a world record for, pull-ups, and he did Navy SEAL training, BUDS 3 times because he failed that the first 2 times, like for whatever. I can't remember the exact reasons, but he wrote the book Can't Hurt Me. It's an amazing read, very motivational. He's got amazing athletes that admire, respect him, and just believe, and he lives up to what he talks about. I mean, some people find their success, I think, and they become great athletes, they become successful, and then, that's kind of like the peak of their game, and they don't continue to do it. But from what I've seen, I mean, David Goggins continues to keep making videos, motivational videos, inspiring videos while he's running, continuing to do all these things. And he came up with this challenge called the 4x4x48 challenge. And what we're going to be talking about right now is this idea of destroying the weak thoughts. Because when I was going through this before, he posted it like maybe 2 or 3 months ahead of time, and I just heard about it. I saw it on Facebook, and as a joke, I had written on there a comment like, "Oh, if we do this, can we get?" He's got a common quote like, "Taking souls" is like something that he talks about, right? So I made a comment there. Can we join a Soul Taker club if we do this challenge? Just randomly. I mean, I was just making a random comment. And then I didn't really plan on doing it. But here's what I realized as when I finally did do it in March, a few months after I made that comment. I mean, in my mind, I was thinking, oh, should I do it? Should I not? Here's what I realized is the thing that was holding me back wasn't really any sort of like physical obstacle. I'm not completely out of shape, but I'm not like an ultra athlete or anything. I've run 5Ks, but I'm not like a half marathon runner or a marathon runner. My times are pretty slow. The fastest I've ever run was like maybe a 7.5 minute per mile 5K or 8 minute per mile 5K. So, I'm not like an ultra athlete or anything. And this is why I think this challenge is actually achievable by most people. But what I realized was holding me back, which could be helpful to you too, if you can also realize this and harness the skill of watching your thoughts and taking control of your thoughts and making sure that either you destroy the negative thoughts or the weak thoughts, or you at least recognize them and just let them pass through. Just pass through your mind. I mean, I think that's what a lot of mindfulness and all that is about. But just thinking about it, before I even started, I was almost ready to quit because it sounded so difficult. I was almost ready to quit. I mean, and I think this affects a lot of people in many areas of life, including myself. And I had to reflect, like, what other things have I personally wanted to do, but I was about to quit before I even got started because it sounded too hard, it sounded too difficult, it sounded like I wasn't ready, I wasn't prepared. And that is the main question for you if you're watching this. Now, maybe you've done the challenge and you just wanted to get someone else's thoughts on it, but my personal experience, if you haven't done the challenge, or if you want to achieve something else in your life, this could be valuable, is just thinking about those thoughts that are not helpful to you. The thoughts that you probably keep to yourself. Now, some people have therapists and they express all their thoughts to their therapists, or they have great friends that they can use as a sounding board to share all their feelings and emotions. And maybe if you're a man and you're not as open to sharing those things, like these thoughts of doubt and self uh, insecurity, or like whatever it is, then it's time to really consider those things. So just to share my example, when I was doing the challenge, before I've done the challenge, and this isn't something I would share with people, I would never share with a workout partner, but I just want to share this with you so that you have like this example here of these to realize that other people share these thoughts. You know, I was having these thoughts like, oh, it's gonna be cold. What if it rains? My feet are gonna hurt. Like, you would never, if you were in a gym with a workout partner, you would never want to hear those complaints from that person. I would never want to work out with somebody who has those, who's constantly talking about how much their body aches. How, okay, great, your body aches. Now let's go on to the next set, right? You never want to run with somebody who is constantly complaining about how much their feet hurt, how they don't want to do the next lap, how they're not ready, how they're late because they needed some extra preparation time, how they, don't feel up for it. People with all of those like negative thoughts. Oh, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's too dark, it's too late, it's too early. And I'm not saying those aren't justified. I mean, sometimes they're your justifications are real things. But before I did this challenge, I had to really think about all of these ideas, these negative thoughts, these things that were preventing me from wanting to do it, and realize that they're just really weak thoughts. They're not thoughts that come from a place of strength. They're not thoughts that come from a place of fitness. They're not thoughts that come from a place of like mental, just taking control of your own mind. If I was not to do this, if I was not to have done the challenge, the only reason that I probably wouldn't have done the challenge is because I would accept those thoughts, allow them to be justifications for why I cannot run 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. And that's where there can be such a huge gap. It was such a mental game for me, because even as I was doing it, I was going through the first run, second run, third run. Those were kind of easy, but then it was early in the morning, and then I knew the next day it was going to rain, and it was starting to get cold, and I was thinking, oh, nobody would really care if I quit. And then even before, so I ended up using social media to do fundraising for UNICEF, to help support, provide aid to children in Ukraine, because obviously, if you're familiar with this time period, depending on when you're watching this video, there is a attack on Ukraine from Russia. But I decided to use social media to fundraise for funds for the Ukraine. So you can do that as a challenge, because it's not a specific event, it's a challenge that anybody can attempt, and there's no specific organization attached. So you can really pick any group if you want to raise money for them. But back to the topic at hand. Originally, I had all of these ideas of failure, these thoughts of weakness, these weak thoughts that I needed to tackle first. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'm not going to fundraise because that means I have to complete it, and that's not good. What if I don't complete it? Or maybe I shouldn't post on social media about it because that's going to mean that I have to complete it, and it's going to be embarrassing not to do it. And then there was all these other thoughts, like these things just constantly flowing through my mind of why I shouldn't do it, why it wouldn't be worth it, why I was not prepared, why I was going to suck, why it was going to hurt and be painful, like all of these things. And by now you're probably finished with me complaining, but what I really wanted to share here is, if you're contemplating a challenge like this, or if you're thinking about doing anything else in life and trying to find more success, or like maybe all you want to do is motivate yourself to write a book, make a video, start that podcast, put your book in a story, or put your stories into like a short form book, make that art you've wanted to create, ask for that raise at work, whatever that is, whatever that goal that you want to do is or achieve, just think about this idea of what are you telling yourself? What is your mind telling you? And then to realize that some of those thoughts are just like, they're not real thoughts. They're weak thoughts. And there's two ways to really tackle this that I found is either you have to destroy them by substituting with positive thoughts, or two, as they practice in mindfulness and meditation, to just let the thoughts flow through. Accept that it's a thought. Don't even call it a weak thought. Or you could label it, right? You could label, okay, weak thought, let it pass through. Weak thought, let it pass through. Not a good thought, let it pass through. But you also have to have the positive thoughts or the helpful thoughts that are going to push you through. So we've got this whole idea, right? You've probably gotten annoyed at all of this whining and moaning and groaning and complaining that I've just shared with you. But these are things that people have, right? Like, I imagine that the majority of people have had these doubts in their head, but of course they don't voice them because it's not helpful. And there are some people who are able to take these thoughts and realize what they are, accept them for what they are, put them in a box somewhere, push them to the side or whatever, completely ignore them and destroy them, and find these helpful thoughts that help you to achieve the challenge. Now, here's the thing I want to say is that there are ultra athletes that maybe here in the challenge are like, they might have run like a marathon every single day for an entire week, and they're listening to this, or they've done Ironmans, and they're like, okay, well, this is just a fun other challenge. But for those of you who are looking for a challenge that is achievable, but still incredibly tough, I think David Goggins came up with like the perfect challenge for that in the 4x4x48 challenge. And here's why. So on one hand, you can do the 4x4x48 challenge by not running 4 miles every 4 hours, but doing 45 minutes to 1 hour of exercise every 4 hours, or every 4 hours for 48 hours. So it is achievable by everybody, almost. I mean, if you are a super couch potato, I was on Facebook and there was this guy posting on there. He hadn't run in 5 years, so he decided to do the challenge. And after the second or third one, he started going on a bike, and that's fine. And he started walking, going on the bike. There's plenty of people that walk it. So, depending on where you are at your fitness level, then the challenge becomes simply getting up into the habit of getting up every 4 hours for 48 hours and just challenging yourself, pushing yourself to that next step, getting yourself to do something that's just a little bit more challenging. And again, going back to this topic of destroying those weak thoughts, how do you do that? Like, here's what I really realized as I was going through it. I mean, first, of course, you have to be aware of them, right? You have to be aware that these thoughts are probably what's holding you back. Most people can do this, but they simply I'm just not going to do it. And then that's it. End of question. I'm not doing it. That's it, period. And they say that. And is that a weak thought? Yeah, some people might see it as a weak thought. Some people might not. Some people might have a purely good justification. But in thinking about what you have to substitute for it, how do you destroy it, you got to think about what the positive thoughts are. How can you get yourself to achieve this? So when I realized that these thoughts are what I consider weak thoughts, I started to say, how can I achieve this? How can I motivate myself to do this? I started thinking about, okay, well, I need to do this, or else, I'm not going to respect myself afterwards, or I'm going to respect myself much more afterwards if I accomplish this challenge, or my body is going to feel so good after I accomplish this challenge, or, simply holding yourself accountable and avoiding the embarrassment of not accomplishing it, even though, I think most people wouldn't be upset if you failed to achieve the challenge or whatever. But there is so much truth in the things that I've read, and the ideas that I've read, whether they be in the books The Untethered Soul, David Goggins' Can't Hurt Me, Tony Robbins, all his books, Awaken the Giant Within, Unlimited Power, Think and Grow Rich. All of these books talk, The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. All of these books talk about mastering your mind, mastering your mental attitude, mastering your thoughts. And they are talking about, and what I see, what I've had the opportunity to be conscious of, is to realize what my thoughts are and not to let them get the best of me. And here's where that also came in handy, is when I was going through the exercise and I was going through the actual runs. I wanted to, there were so many times when I just wanted to take a walk, take it easy, or whatever. But walking and taking it easy was another game in itself. Yeah, I could walk. Yeah, I could take it easy. Yeah, I could just probably stay inside while it's cold and like do some push-ups. And for anybody that did that, that's great. I'm just sharing, my own experience of what I felt was necessary for me to complete it at my fullest ability and, make the best out of it was, to make sure that I didn't walk a single moment. So I had constantly made sure that my mind was like on was constantly destroying the negative thought. Oh, well, you can walk. No one would ever know. Like, it's night out. No one will know. No one will judge you, and anything like that, right? I had to destroy the justifications, the thoughts that were gonna make me, I felt, potentially weaker, and not physically weaker, but the things that are just gonna pull you down a bit, because it's not always somebody else that brings you up or carries you down. Yes, it's great to have supportive people. You ultimately become a lot like the 5 people that you surround yourself with most. But it was this thing of just making sure that I was accountable and making sure that I was aware of the thoughts that I was having, and to realize that those thoughts were not true physical limitations. That the thought was not a true physical limitation of the fact that I could just keep going. I can jog. If I have to jog slow, I'm gonna do it, even though it was difficult to walk down the stairs, and some of my bones and my feet were hurting and my knees were hurting, and it was cold and it was like drizzling a little bit. And by the way, it also helped to have the group and support, because there's people that were doing this challenge in like the freezing cold ice snow, and I was like, all right, if those people can do it, then I should at least be able to do it in Southern California, where the weather is mostly nice. This weekend just happened to be a little bit rainy and cold. But I've come to appreciate from this challenge, and I hope that you will too, not just from the challenge, but for anything else that you're looking to accomplish or achieve, this idea that whatever is on your mind, and whatever, it can be an obstacle to what you want to achieve. Say you have this obstacle right here that you want to achieve, and they say the mental game is the most of it, right? The running, for me, I realized like I could just keep going and going and going and going. If I really, 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 really needed to, I could walk. If I really, really, really wanted to, I could just stay home and do like push-ups and maybe some yoga or something. Worst case scenario, right? I'm sure there's some people that woke up and did yoga every 4 hours for 48 hours. But with that said, to realize that the limitation here was not so much the physical, right? Your body, my body personally, was fully capable of doing something every 4 hours for 48 hours. Your body probably is too. But to realize this mental game in any area of just that movement, right? The physical is just a part of it, but the biggest part that I found was mental. For months, it was mental. For months before the event, I was thinking to myself, am I going to do this? I'm not going to do this. It's going to be cold. What if it hurts? What if, and I'm not the type of person that's like, oh, well, this is painful, so I'm not going to do it. I don't usually voice these, thoughts, but I'm sharing them with you because these are thoughts that go through people's minds. The thought of pain, the thought of discomfort, even like just a little bit of discomfort can scare some people, right? Just the idea of rain can prevent somebody from wanting to do something. Just the idea of being sore or having uncomfortable joints, or having knees that are a little bit achy can be this can prevent people from wanting to do something. And what I want to share here is, and always talk to a doctor or physician, get their advice before you decide to take on any physical challenge, especially something as challenging as the 4x4x48 challenge. But to realize that the physical part of it is just such a small part, and I've really come to appreciate that with this challenge, is the physical part of it is just a small part. Because, and here's where my mind started to go when I was looking to do when I was going through the challenge, when I was looking to find those thoughts that would be helpful, is not so much is like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do this. Not so much about that. It's more of how am I going to do this? Your mind starts to find these answers. How am I going to do this? What's going to motivate me to do this? What can I feel after I accomplish these things? So I started coming up with answers for those things. Well, I could possibly walk everything. I mean, I've hiked 12 miles before, which might be not be a lot, but I've hiked 12, 15 miles before, and it made me think. Well, if I can hike 12 or 15 miles, why can't I do 24 miles of a walk in one day, and then just double that? Walking is not that difficult. If I've hiked for 12 or 15 miles, then I know I could hit at least 20 or 24 if time permitted, depending on the area. And you start to realize like what your body has accomplished, and you start to find these answers. So I started coming up with these answers. Okay, well, that's possible. If that's possible, then what else is possible? I could walk every 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. But I didn't want to do that because I wanted some sleep. So, that's the other part of it. Your mind is going to be thinking, oh, well, what if I don't get enough sleep? And, I had to prepare myself. I had to physically prepare myself. Well, how can I possibly get enough sleep? Well, I'll make my schedule clear for this weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And, I made a bed on the couch for myself so I wouldn't wake up my girlfriend. And I set my alarm on the couch, and then there we go. You put your clothes out. That's what I did. And I didn't worry about, oh, well, now I got to put on my shoes. Now I got to figure out which clothes to wear. Those can be really tough. And by the way, these are some very helpful tools too. The Garmin watches and the Garmin chest heart rate monitor, because they provide an amazing opportunity for you to track every single run. And that's what I did. I tracked every single run. For me personally, another motivating element of this was that I'm not the type of person that likes to do things unless I can track it. So for me, these have been amazing. I like to be able to track things. I like to be able to know if I'm improving. I like to be able to know, if I'm actually pushing myself. Because if you know what your heart rate's reaching, then you can know if you're really pushing yourself. And to see where you are, to gamify your activities. But with that said, I started preparing myself. I started thinking about how can I do this instead of, well, it's gonna be cold, it's gonna hurt, it's gonna be painful, I'm sore, I'm tired, I'm sleepy. Oh, I'm like 3 minutes late. Maybe I should just. It's 3 minutes after this round. Maybe I should just give up now because I'm 3 minutes later. It's too early to start, or anything like that. And what I had to do was I had to substitute with these questions of how am I going to do this? What do I need to know? What do I need to feel? What do I need to do to achieve this? And that came down, I mean, for me personally, I had to hold myself accountable, posting on social media. I had to realize that this was something I felt like I had to do, or else, I would probably not. I don't want to say respect myself. It's always good to like respect yourself, despite failure or success. But for me, that was a big thing for me. I was like, I need to do this. I've already made a comment on there. My mind wants to do it. My body's somewhat prepared. I should push myself to do this to, gain an appreciation for what I have accomplished. And I felt like I needed to take on a challenge. And when I started to come up with these thoughts, this is when like my mind started going of like, let's do this. You can do it. You can do this. You can do this. Get it going. And then while you're running, when you start to have the negative thoughts, you realize them. And then I was starting to think, okay, well, I'm going to make this happen. I'm going to do this. This is going to happen. The pain is just temporary, but the feeling after this run, I mean, by the way, they talk about running highs. I definitely got some amazing running highs. Like my body just felt so good afterwards, despite how achy my legs felt, despite how my joints, my ankles, and like how sweaty I was, and I was sleeping on a couch for it was only 48 hours. It's not that difficult, but I wasn't. But like to think about how I felt, I definitely got the runner's high, and I haven't had that in a long time. So to get that workout high, you don't really realize it until you actually fully experience it for yourself. So that itself was totally worth it just to get that feeling. But Anyway, you start to go through it. And I did this challenge, and you overcome these weak thoughts, and you start to destroy them, and you start to realize like just how unhelpful they are. And then I started to think about like what other areas have these unhelpful thoughts been preventing me from doing the things that I want. And for you, as the listener, or as someone watching this, I want to ask you, what are some unhelpful thoughts? What are some goals that you've set, and what are some unhelpful thoughts that you've had as the obstacle to getting to where you want to go? Where are the obstacles? Because it's probably not specific to anything that you can't physically do. There's very few things in the world that, if you have a desire to accomplish it or achieve it, that you can't at least reach some level of like improvement or competence in that area, right? Like if you're 5'6" and you want to become a basketball player, and you can dedicate all your time to becoming a top basketball player, you might not win an NBA title, but you can possibly play in the NBA if that is what you truly desire. Or if you want to become an astronaut, you can become an astronaut or whatever. But most people think height is related to activity, and of course, like if you're a person who's 130 pounds and you want to have a desire, like I'm not saying a 130-pound person should desire to be a linebacker, right? And that you can truly become a linebacker, but maybe you could be a coach for linebackers. Maybe you just study linebacking so much and you've had a desire, but you realize that teaching can be more effective for you, so, and you can reach more competence in that to become an expert in that and to help other people in that area. You could become whatever, right? So, but the point is that there's very few things in terms of goals and achievement that people truly have some limitation that eliminates all possibility for them. And that's where this idea of the mental game comes in. Just a mental game, because the physical game, you'll get there. But just thinking about this idea of the mental game element of it, just the mental area, the weak thoughts that are preventing you from getting there, you got to think about those. Realize them. Don't dwell on them. Let them pass through. Maybe destroy them. Use positive thoughts. Figure out how. Figure out what it takes to get you there. Figure out what motivates you. Figure out what goals you want that it takes to get to that level. And as you progress along, you become more and more competent at it. And just like me personally, just over a course of 48 hours, like I could feel it was so meditative for me. One other thing that David Goggins talks about is this idea of sorry, excuse me, there's people at my door. So I had to disconnect this or stop this video and pause it for some people that came to the door. However, with that said, when you want to achieve your goals, just think about this idea. I mean, this is why I think anybody or everybody should at least attempt some version of this challenge, the 4x4x48 challenge, is to use it as like an opportunity to, meditate on these thoughts. Now, David Goggins talks a lot about this idea of, his book Can't Hurt Me, not running with headphones. And I didn't use headphones the entire time. So it was like 48 hours of just pure meditative running almost. Pure meditative, just being alone with my thoughts, and just literally the only thing that was pushing me through is just thoughts, thinking, pushing you through physically, mentally, and all of that. And it's a meditative experience, but it helped me realize so many great things that are incredibly helpful. So I could probably keep going on about this, but I wish you the best in achieving your goals, and I hope this video is helpful in just at least recognizing that there's probably someone else out there that has the same thoughts as you that are preventing them or you from achieving what it is you want to do, and that there's a lot out there that what you want to achieve is really within your grasp. Even tough physical challenges are within your grasp in some way, shape, or form. And you can do it, but at some point, it's important to realize that you might want to destroy or just let pass through those weak thoughts. Well, anyway, thank you for watching and have a wonderful day.